Hey everybody, it's GauntletX back with another Guilds of Ravnica spoiler video. This one will be about a bunch of limited playables that I don't think we'll see play in any other format, so I'm just clumping them all up together into one decently long video. Probably won't talk about these cards as long as my solo card videos, but we'll find out. Alright, so the first card we got Unexplained Disappearance. It's 1 and a blue for an instant. It returns target creature to its owner's hand, and you surveil 1. So this is the Dimir version of Voyage's End, back from Theros. Voyage's End was a pretty good card, but that was a format where there were a lot of enchantments. It was specifically an enchantment block, so you could usually get some value out of it by bouncing something that was monstrous or bouncing something with an enchantment attached to it. I'm not so sure how often you can do that here. Definitely it's in a format with Selesnya, so you'll be able to bounce some tokens, and that'll feel great if it's a large token like a 5/5 worm. We haven't seen any Selesnya token producers yet, so we don't really know if they're just going to be pooping out a million saplings again, or if we will have a couple larger tokens, like 2/2 Knights with Vigilance, or Trample Worms and stuff like that. But if we do have those larger tokens, this card's going to be higher in value. I do think no matter what, it'll be a decent pick, not insanely high. The other thing to think about is both of the other Ravnica formats that we've had so far, Original Ravnica and Return to Ravnica, had a slight enchantment theme, so if that comes back again, then this card also goes up in value. In Original Ravnica, we had the Mage Marks sub-theme, and then in Return to Ravnica, we had Ethereal Armor, Knightly Valor, those kind of enchantments. So, yeah, I could see this card being very good, but without knowing anything about how many tokens or enchantments are in the set, I still think it's a decent pick. I don't think you're ever unhappy to have it in your deck. The Surveil just really helps the card a lot. And let's move on to the next card. This one I think is a really high pick. Deadly Visit, 2 black and 3 colorless. Or 3 generic mana. Sorry, colorless is specifically for your Oogie Boogie Eldrazi. It's a sorcery that says destroy target creature and surveil 2. I think this card is great. If you look at the black removal that we've had in recent limited formats, if you look at Lich's Caress, I think this is just straight up better. Surveil 2 is a much stronger ability than gaining 3 life in my opinion. And if you look at this versus Eviscerate, I think it's at least on par. The 1 more mana to Surveil 2, I think I'm happy with that rate. And those were both premium removal spells in their respective formats, so I see this being as well a premium removal spell that is a very high pick. Definitely excited about this card because Dimir is my guild of choice for the pre-release, and Unexplained Disappearance and Deadly Visit are a very good start to their common spoilers for the format. Next up, we have Sonic Assault. 1, a blue and a red for an instant. Tap target creature. Sonic Assault deals 2 damage to that creature's controller, and it has Jumpstart, so you can discard a card from your hand and exile it from your grave to cast it again. This card I'm a lot less happy about. I think Izzet's spoilers so far have been pretty weak. Not super happy with them, but we'll have to see how they play out. It definitely seems like the Jumpstart stuff that they've revealed so far is a lot more about you're going to want to be synergistic with the other cards in your pool than them just being strong on their own. Like, I don't see this effect being that strong in its own. I don't think I'll ever be super happy to have this in my deck, but who really knows until we see more of the format, until we actually play with this card. But my personal opinion, this card seems pretty weak. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Next up, we have Moodmark Painter. 2 and 2 black for a 2/3 human shaman with Undergrowth. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gains Menace and gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. I don't really know how to feel about this card yet. It's another one where Undergrowth will have to see how the format shapes up, but I'm not super happy with this card. 4 mana 2/3 is just not a good rate at all, and even then I don't think you want to play it at 4, because this seems like it's trying to be sort of a finisher card where once you get to the late game and you have a bunch of creatures in your grave, then you cast this, make one of your slightly evasive creatures much larger and more evasive, like doing this on a flyer or something to just like kill them out of nowhere late game. Seems like the plan. Yeah, I won't really know till the format shapes up, but I'm not too high about this card. I don't like a card that just sits in your hand. in order to do something large, and I think if you're ever having to cast this on turn 4, it's not going to be very impressive at all. Just giving something +2, maybe +3 if you've managed to surveil a lot somehow early on, just doesn't seem like a huge swing that's worth running a 2-3 for 4. But we'll see as the format shapes up. I'll probably be very wrong about a lot of these predictions, but that's my opinion for now. Next up, we have Hammer Dropper, our first Boros card in this video. It is 2, a red and a white for a 5/2 with Mentor. Also, it is a giant soldier. This is another one. It's going to need some support to be good, but it seems like the upside is relatively high. I'm not usually happy about stuff like 4-mana 5/2s. We've seen cards like a red and 3 colorless for a 5/2 in limited formats before, and they were almost always unplayable. The problem with them is they almost always just trade for a 2/2 or a 3/1 or something that costs your opponent like 2 mana. This gets around that a little bit by having some upside, even if it dies the first time you attack with it, because it'll put a counter on basically any of your other dudes at that point. And I think that this card goes up a lot in value if white ends up having good protection spells, or red has good stuff to give first strike. So definitely another card. It seems alright, and it definitely could be pretty good with the right support in the common instance slot for combat tricks and such. Next up we have Barging Sergeant. He's a 5-mana 4/2 with haste and Mentor. I like this card more than the 4-mana 5/2, and I don't know if I should. The reason that I like this card so much is because it reminds me a lot. I've been doing Chaos Drafts lately on Magic Online until they took them off. Why did they do that? Why you gotta do that? This Crested Craghorn or whatever, 5-mana 4/1 with haste and provoke. This card reminds me a lot of that, even though they're not actually that similar, and I loved that card. Just being able to spend 5 and just basically kill anything with 4 toughness was pretty sweet. But yeah, this just reminds me of it because it's the same mana cost for 4 power with haste, and I think that 4 power haste is nothing to scoff at, and mentoring onto another dude, this dude seems alright. I like him. I don't think he's a super high pick, but I do like him better than Hammer Dropper if the instant support doesn't end up being that good, like stuff that gives protection or first strike. So another card, we'll see how the format shapes out, but even at its worst, I like this guy. Maybe I'm in the minority there, because he again most likely just trades with a 2/2 or a 3/3 or something like that. But he does put a counter on another dude. He does have haste if they manage to, if you're in a position where you're both swinging out at each other, so all their creatures are tapped, sending this guy in, hitting him for 4, and putting a counter on another dude to hit him for just like a lot seems like a really good spot to be in. Next up, in Selesnya, we have Rosemane Centaur. It is 3, a green and a white for a 4/4 with Vigilance. It is a Centaur soldier. This card seems great. If you look at Vigilant Baloth from M19, that card is really good for 2 green and 3 colors. It's a 5/5 Vigilance, but it doesn't have Convoke. So this guy's got 1 less power, 1 less toughness, but it has Convoke. I think that trade-off is fine. We haven't seen the token producers in Selesnya, and that is a big part of how good Convoke is going to be, but I believe that if we have something like a Raise the Alarm or a Fists of Ironwood, something like that, that'll give you 2 creatures on turn 2, think like Krenko's Command, but in green or white, then these Convoke cards will go up a lot in value, because imagine going turn 2, make 2 1/1s, that means turn 3 you can play this 4/4 Vigilance if you just tap your 1/1s. Seems really good if you've got the right Convoke support, and even if you don't, 5 mana 4/4 Vigilance, I mean that is fine. That is going to be a threat in a lot of games. Anyways, moving on, we've got Arboretum Elemental. That is Arboretum Elemental. Yes, I looked up how to pronounce it, and I don't like the way it's pronounced either. So it is 2 green and 7 colorless for a 7/5 with Hexproof and Convoke. This card, I think it's a really good game ender, even without a lot of provoke. I think the rate is reasonable for limited at probably 2 green and 5, that would be a reasonable limited card. So yeah, if you get into a board stall or if you have a lot of tokens to make this cheaper, I think this card's good. In like a Golgari deck where you're just a bunch of removal and you're kind of controlling the game, this card isn't as great. Like if you're frequently getting to the late game where both of you just have empty fields, paying 9 for a 7/5 hexproof, not so good. So you definitely want some synergy with the Convoke on this guy, but I think if you do, he is a good game ender. The reason that I'm just shoving him in this limited video and not even talking about him for Constructed, well, some people might consider it for Constructed, just because, Convoke is exciting, maybe you can get it out for really cheap, is just because Carnage Tyrant. I think Carnage Tyrant takes this guy's slot up so much better. He can't be countered, and he has Trample, and those are very important things, and the rate is the same as if you tapped 3 creatures for the Convoke for Arboretum Elemental, so I don't see this guy doing anything in Standard. Carnage Tyrant is just better. Next up, we have Direct Current, another Izzet card. It is 2 red and a colorless for a sorcery. It deals 2 damage to any target, and it has Jumpstart. So this is another one I'm not particularly happy about. The fact that it can kill 2 things over the course of the game at the cost of like 1.5 cards, like this, and then discarding a land card later, is definitely good. But 2 damage is like, I don't know, man. I could see some games where this isn't just going to take out 2 things. Of course, knowing that you have this in your grave, you can make more aggressive attacks where you would be trading like a 3 power creature for a 5 toughness creature. So we'll have to see as the format shapes out. I think it's okay. It's definitely not like the Windmill Slam really good removal that I think that the Deadly Visit is. But it's an interesting card that I think you actually have to think around a bit to play it well. So it does feel very Izzet. So it does seem like probably the best Jumpstart card they've spoiled so far, but still not the most exciting start to Jumpstart. Next we have Healer's Hawk. It is 1 white for a 1/1 flying lifelink. Now this card perplexes me. This card makes me think that there will be another slight enchantment sub-theme again like we had with Ethereal Armor and with the Mage Marks, because otherwise, I just feel like every time that you see a card with lifelink, that is just immediately a message like, suit this guy up, throw some equipment on it, throw some enchantments on it, and we don't have any of those spoilers yet. No enchantments, no equipment yet. So I think if there ends up being a decent chunk of enchantments and equipments, this card's going to be pretty good. Definitely still going to be a late pick, and you're going to be drafting around it if you are picking it. But other than that, it's just another 1-mana 1/1 flyer. The lifelink does help it be a little more impressive, a little more viable. If your opponent ends up having like no flyers, then if this can just get in there all game and just slowly pull life out of your opponent. This card feels very Orzhov, but never mind that. It could be okay. Next up, we have Radical Idea. 1 and a blue for an instant. Draw a card, and it has Jumpstart. This is the card right here that pissed me off the most out of the Jumpstart cards. So the second that they announced Jumpstart, I thought that the mechanic could be really good because of the fact that it would let us have flashback cards at more aggressively costed flashback costs, because the flashback cost is just the same as the actual spell. And the reason that we could have flashback cards at more aggressive costs is because you also have to discard a card. Like, you're paying a pretty large cost in card advantage levels in order to cast it again. So when I saw Radical Idea and that it's just think twice for 1 less mana on the flashback, I was like, come on guys, what the hell? What is this? Think twice is so much better than this card. But we'll deal with it. It definitely, for cards that care about the number of times you're casting instants and sorceries, it could be really good. For undergrowth stuff, being able to just throw a creature in your grave, maybe it's okay. And with the next card, I think it combos pretty well, and this next card is what makes me think that maybe the plan with Jumpstart is to just have a lot of incentive to cast a lot of instants and sorceries. So next up we have Murmuring Mystic. This is probably my favorite card that they've spoiled yet, limited-wise. It is a blue and 3 colorless for a 1/5 human wizard, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying. Oh my god, this card is a build around me. In a jumpstart deck, this card can be sick. You just drop it for 4 for a 1/5, then next turn, if this guy lives, just going like Radical Idea and then jumpstart Radical Idea again, then you have a 1/5 and 2 1/1s with flying. I definitely think with jumpstart, this card can take over the game very quickly. It also works really well in just a surveil-like control deck, where you're just controlling your opponent by countering their stuff with cards like Sinister Sabotage, destroying their creatures with your Deadly Visits. That is not the plural visits. And just slowing them down with stuff like Unexplained Disappearance. Definitely Murmuring Mystic is my favorite card spoiled so far. It definitely seems like a fun build around me, and it's good to see that we will have some build around me mechanics in the set. One final card to talk about here, and that is Golgari Guildgate. This basically says that all the guild gates will be in the set. I think there's not a lot to say about this. It was pretty expected that we'd have some common dual lands for mana fixing. Definitely seems like it's going to be a 3-color format where you pick your primary guild, splash in one of its allies. So that's the main reason that I'm picking Dimir at the pre-release, is because my 3 favorite guilds in the set are Dimir, Golgari, and Izzet, and Dimir shares a color with Izzet and Golgari. So I can take Dimir as my pre-release kit, and then I'll almost definitely be able to splash in either Golgari or Izzet, depending on which is stronger at the time. And maybe if the mana fixing's insane, I could just splash in both. Or I could, I could just have like base 3-color equal amounts of 3 of those colors and then just splash in a 4th color. Who knows? The mana fixing definitely seems like it's going to be good. Definitely at least a 3-color format, and maybe even it could be a draft strategy to just take a bunch of duels and go crazy with a million colors. So yeah, those are all the limited power level spoilers so far for Guilds of Ravnica. What are you thinking of the set so far? I think it's looking fun. We aren't even that far into spoiler season at all, and I'm pretty excited. My only qualms so far, I want to see some stronger Izzet and Golgari commons. Sonic Assault, Direct Current, and Radical Idea have not given me the best impression of Izzet so far. And I don't know, I just don't like Moonmark Painter that much, and we haven't gotten any other commons in Golgari yet, so we'll see how the format shapes out. The stuff that I really like. I am super happy about Dimir. I'm very excited to play them. And Selesnya's got some beefy dudes already. So, thank you all for watching. Leave a comment below what you think is going to be the most exciting stuff to play. What are you hoping to see in the coming weeks of spoiler season? And I'll see you all next video. Goodbye.